A lot of people are already concerned about our top prospect with CJ Abrams, but guys, I'm here to tell you, just relax for now. In fact, I think there is an even better argument for why you should be encouraged with CJ Abrams. I'm going to tell you all of that and more after this.
You are Locked On Nationals, your daily Washington Nationals podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. And thank you for making Locked On Nationals your first listen every day, as we are free and available wherever you get your podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Clary, and again, if it's your first time listening, I have taken my passion from baseball into podcast form here with the Locked On Podcast Network, where you get your team every single day. And that is the Washington Nationals for this show. Before we get into my hard-hitting CJ Abrams topic, let's do some house cleaning first. The Washington Nationals dropped to the Rays last night for a score 6-2. Trevor Williams made his Nationals regular season debut, and let's be honest, it was a little underwhelming. What are the expectations for him again? We're not really expecting a huge breakout season from Trevor Williams. At least I'm not. We know what he is. If you're going to get a couple good starts here and there, and I do believe that, but this is probably what it's going to look like from Trevor Williams. Again, he's not really a consistent starting pitcher, so let's not get too worked up about that. You know what I think about it? I want to see Patrick Corbin and Trevor Williams paired as an opener / closer duo and see what they can do together, because I think they're both valuable at this point. I don't really have too high of expectations for them. I don't think you should either. But let's get to CJ Abrams. I've seen I've seen some people discuss CJ Abrams and talk about he hasn't had a hit through 3 games yet. 10 at-bats. What are we doing? I'm here to tell you, let's all just relax a little bit, because CJ Abrams, really, honestly, as I said in that cold intro, I think CJ Abrams has been pretty effective at the plate from what we want to see. What was one of the bigger issues that CJ had just last year? It was his power. The consistency to hit the ball, get extra base hits, and be a menace on the base path. He hasn't really been able to do that just yet. But, guys, if you look at it, if you look at the numbers and what he has been doing at the plate, through 3 games and only 10 at-bats, it's still relatively impressive for what we saw last year. And this is what I say by that. So far, 5 out of his 10 at-bats have had an exit velo of 95 mile per hour and more. That is hard-hitting contact right there. And that is what we want to see from CJ Abrams. We know what he can do with his hit tool. He's going to be a batting average guy, and he's going to be able to get hits in the big leagues. But here's the question. Can he get the power going? Can he find the gap? And let's be honest, baseball is a cruel game. You could hit a 110 mile per hour line drive to dead center, and guess what? The center fielder could be right there. You did nothing wrong. You can't control where that ball's going. So with CJ Abrams, he's in that same boat right now, to where 5 hard hit balls through his 10 at-bats, and he's been hitting the ball hard. And that's what we want to see. That's the growth and the development that we have talked about all offseason. And also, not to mention, he's gotten a little larger, meaning he's been hitting the weight room a little bit, and that has a big effect on what he can do in the big leagues. And in fact, I think that is something that we will see more and more out of as CJ progresses over the years. But for now, last year we didn't see the hit and the power tool. In fact, you saw a lot of ground balls from him. He was missing some opportunities at the plate, missing on some fastballs, getting fooled on curveballs, all of that stuff. And honestly, he hasn't really been great against left-handed pitching. But for a young guy who's a left-handed hitter, that's kind of the expectation. No one's Juan Soto. Not a single soul out there is Juan Soto. I'll tell you that right now. So our expectations for young guys over the years has kind of been stretched out to a point where we want it now. Because Bryce Harper, it clicked for him in 2012. Juan Soto clicked for him in 2018. Steven Strasburg in 2010, one of the best debuts ever. We're used to that stuff happening just like that now. That's not the case in a rebuild. It's going to take time. And as I have in my Twitter bio, you can check it out at @LO_Nationals. It's hashtag trust the process. Trust the process. This is part of it. These are strides. Yes, he's 0 for 10 to start the season, but when you look deeper into the numbers and you see that, well, he is hitting the ball hard, and we've all acknowledged that. I think everyone could say that he is hitting the ball hard because that's what the numbers indicate. He's just not finding the holes right now, and that is why baseball is a gruesome sport. It's an ugly game, man. It's tough. It's not easy. No sports are easy, in fact, except golf. But guys, let's take it down just a tad, because this is someone that we don't need to rush. He doesn't need to figure it out right now. This team is not in a win now situation. It's a rebuild. This is for the long run. And so when you're checking your to-do list for this season and you want to see CJ Abrams add a little more of that power, we're already starting to see it. It's just, I think we're getting just a tad bit spoiled with it. To where, well, he's going 0 for 10. Good. Fail now. But even then, he's not failing. He's just not finding the holes. You just can't do anything about that. And not to mention, the Nationals have faced 2 of the top 10 teams in all of Major League Baseball, in my mind, with the Braves and the Rays. A 3-game set for each. That's no fun. I mean, come on. This is a tough sport. This is a tough gig. Can we turn it around and do this thing all over again and lose every single game like we seamlessly did last year? No. This is a much better team than last year. But in order to get better, I think CJ Abrams will have to tap into that power, which, through those 10 at-bats, has been a good thing. Also, not to mention, last night, CJ Abrams took a walk. Some people are like, whoa, he took a walk. Big deal. No, it is a big deal, because that is not what we saw last year. Him being a little more selective and not getting fooled with these pitches. And that is something that is going to be a topic of conversation this season with CJ Abrams, because he did strike out a little bit last year. Didn't really take too many walks. But now you're starting to see it. Because last year with the Nationals, you didn't really see it. He had 1 walk in 163 plate appearances. Well, he's got 1 walk so far in 11 plate appearances. Pretty good. I'm just saying. So here's the thing. What we have seen from CJ is more encouraging. He's taking walks. He's getting the power back. He's going to be finding these holes. And once he gets on base, good luck. Have you seen what Anthony Volpe has been doing so far? He doesn't have nearly the speed that CJ Abrams has. He's had 3 stolen bases in the first 3 games. That's the type of menace that CJ will be on the bases. He just needs to get on base, in which that will come. So the more that he can draw walks, the more power that he can tap into, and the better that hit tool gets, is the better version of CJ Abrams that we will see by the end of this year. In fact, it's going to come soon, because you're already starting to see it. He's got a feel for the game already. We know what he can do. It's just time to put it all together. And I'm confident that we will see that. I will say, one concerning thing with CJ Abrams was the 3 errors. But again, it's the first series. We're not expecting too much, and that's okay. Get the issues out now. I want to see what you do in the second half. That is what matters. finish strong. And that is really it with CJ Abrams. But next, we do have to take a little step back, look at the big picture, and talk about what this Nats team hasn't really done too well so far in 2023. I'm going to tell you all about that. But before we get into that, I got to tell you guys about my friends over on Game Time. And guys, buying tickets to your favorite events shouldn't be stressful. Game Time is a fast and easy way to buy tickets for all sports, music, comedy, and theater near you. With killer deals on last-minute tickets and their best price guaranteed, you can stop stressing over the tickets and start getting hyped for the fun that you'll have. Guys, here's the thing. There are flash deals in last-minute ticket sales. Like tomorrow, the Nationals play at 1 o'clock against the Tampa Bay Rays. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to hitch my way out of work just a little bit early, about 12:40, let's say. I'm going to get on the Game Time app. I'm going to buy some tickets, get them cheap at the best price. That is exactly what you should do as well. Download the Game Time app and create an account and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. And now we do get into some cause of concern for this Nationals team. And it's not one person as a whole. This is a team effort that hasn't been so great. And it is starting to be a recycling issue with this Nationals team post Juan Soto and Josh Bell. And here's what it is. This team does not have power so far. Right now, the Nationals sit second to last in OPS, only in front of the Detroit Tigers, and they sit dead last in slugging percentage, which is measuring how much power you have for a team in my mind. That is the only cause of concern that I truly have at this point with the Nats. Listen, we don't have that high of expectations, but what I did want to see this year was a little more pop in the bat. Give me something just a little more. And that is something that we just haven't been able to see so far. Jeimer Candelario hit a home run last night. Finally, the Nationals get a home run besides Keibert Ruiz. That's 2 in 4 games. 5 games, actually. 4 games. That's not great, especially in today's game. That's something that we expect to see relatively early. And also, not to mention, this Nationals team is not really taking walks that well. They're sitting 18th in all of baseball with only 13 walks so far. But here's what they are kind of doing well at the plate. They're limiting the strikeouts a little bit more than what I thought they would be, because they are 29th. They only have 28 strikeouts on the year. They're putting the ball in play. That is a good thing. But at the end of the day, I could deal with the strikeouts if you were to give me some power. It's kind of like Joey Gallo. We all know Joey Gallo. He's got a ton of power. You see him. Minnesota Twins, he's been hot so far. I wanted the Nationals to sign him. But he strikes out a ton. But you know what he does well? He gets those slugging numbers up. And he hits a ton of home runs. And yes, he does strike out a lot. But again, that isn't really what we're looking at in today's game. If you can get on base, and most importantly, if you have power to hit those guys in, that is an important feature in today's ball game. And looking at it from a deeper perspective, we've talked about base running. Victor Robles, not the best base runner. But here's the thing. Right now, Major League Baseball, let's see how this will be adjusted over time. Will catchers start to adjust to this and kind of limit the stolen bases? Because at this point, it's been wild how much runners have been running around freely with really no discipline whatsoever. So once the Nationals do get guys on base, like a CJ Abrams, like a Victor Robles, like a Luis Garcia even, they can get stolen bags. And when they do that, that is when they will start to manufacture more and more runs, because that's just something we haven't been able to see so far with this Nationals team. We only have 9 runs on the year so far. 9 runs. We're dead last in all of baseball, tied with the Miami Marlins. Sitting at first is the Los Angeles Dodgers with 33. That's the kind of difference through 4 games that we are at. Through 4 games. And yes, the Dodgers are a loaded team and they played 5 games. But even at 9 runs in 4 games, averaging just a tad over 2 runs a game, that's not good for today's game. We need to manufacture our own runs. And that is why I say the slugging does matter. Getting guys on base, hitting them home, and most importantly, getting Abrams, Garcia, the speedy guys on base. That is what the Nationals need to do better so far. And that has been an issue over the last year or so without Juan Soto and Josh Bell. Because those were our guys who were the cleanup hitters. They hit everyone home. And yes, they didn't really have too much opportunities last year, but it still matters. It all goes into this puzzle. So here's the thing with this Nationals team. Yes, I don't need all these flashy plays. I don't need all these flashy home runs. But we need to start manufacturing runs at some point, and it all starts with getting on base and eventually finding that power. Singles are great, but at the end of the day, what type of damage will that do if there's no runners on? A double does way more, obviously. What am I, Captain Obvious over here? But seriously, that is what the problem is with this Nationals lineup at some point. Now, I'm not saying rip the lineup apart, everyone scream and cry because the season's over. It's not. But at the same time, these are issues that have dragged along with this team. And again, yes, this Nationals lineup is not loaded by any means in the imagination. This is not a above average lineup in the bigs or even the National League. Obviously not in the National League. But also, I do know that we have talent on this team that could be helping us out. Guys like Joey Meneses, we haven't really seen it from him so far. Am I going to be worried about him just yet? No. But as a team, that's where it gets a little bit iffy just because of what we saw last year. And yes, it is a little bit of a different team. Adding guys like Candelario, Dominic Smith, who's been ripping the cover off the baseball. But again, I just need more of that. But not even to get too down on this, we do have to highlight Dominic Smith here. Dominic Smith has been one of the more consistent hitters along with Keibert Ruiz. And obviously, guys, Dominic Smith is someone that we will need to have a big first half. Not only if the Nationals decide to keep him, but looking at it from a trade perspective, Dominic Smith, who is a potential Gold Glove winner over at first base, a stout defender, if he can find his power, which so far he has, then that is huge for this Nationals lineup. Because then you're in a win-win situation for both of this. Either you keep Dominic Smith or you trade him at the deadline and you get something good in return. And that is why I've talked about all offseason. I'm like, the Nationals should be taking more deals like Dominic Smith, like a Joey Gallo, or name that random player. You get the point. That's the market that the Nationals should have been in, but they weren't. Because we do kind of know at this point, it's pretty obvious that the budget wasn't too high. So they settled for Dominic Smith. And so far, that return has been pretty impressive for just a few games. But again, this stuff matters. It all goes in the numbers at the end of the day. And that stuff adds up for this Nationals team that desperately needs more talent and really more power. But next, we're going to preview tonight's game as Chad Kuhl makes his Nationals debut. How do we feel about Chad Kuhl? And also, how do we feel about tomorrow's Game 3 wrap-up? We're going to talk about that and more. But before we do that, I got to tell you guys about my friends over at Ultimate Baseball GM. And guys, Pro Baseball GM is the coolest game I've played in a long time. I've always thought I could be a great GM. As it turns out, it's not all that easy. Your boy has been in this competition for about a month now. I've already been fired, but that doesn't mean you'll have the same luck. In fact, you're probably a better GM than me. I've talked about signing Joey Gallo. I guess that would have been a good move. I didn't get to do that for my league. Here's the thing. You do get to hire all the right coaches and manage team finances and do all the fun stuff that GMs do on a daily basis across the major leagues. And guys, Locked On Nationals listeners get a 100% free boost to their franchise when using the promo Locked On in the game store. So make sure to check it out. To download the game, just visit probaseballgm.com, scan the code or look it up on the app stores. That's probaseballgm.com, Ultimate Baseball GM. Start your dynasty today. And now we get into today's matchup with the Tampa Bay Rays as the Nationals get ready for Chad Kuhl to make his Nationals debut. Woo! Can't wait for that. Here's the thing with Chad Kuhl. You know how I feel about this if you're a revisiting listener. I'm not too keen on Chad Kuhl starting. Not too keen on it at all. Because for the simple equation of, will this guy help me on my next postseason team? No, he will not. So here's the thing. We do have to give him a shot. Tonight is his shot. The Nationals dropped game 1 yesterday, and it was not fun. It was not a good night for Trevor Williams. The Nationals starting pitchers have kind of gotten rocked around a little bit in 3 of their first 4 games, minus Mackenzie Gore pitching a gem. Chad Kuhl's got a chance tonight to add on to that. Do I think he will? I think he's going to fare better than Trevor Williams just because of that matchup that he's going against tonight with a not a very experienced pitcher as well, with Josh Fleming of the Tampa Bay Rays. This is someone the Nationals really haven't faced a whole lot. I believe the team only has about 7 plate appearances against Fleming. So this guy is relatively new. A 26-year-old who last year had a 6.43 ERA in 35 innings pitched, 29 strikeouts. But again, this guy is vulnerable. What will we have to do to jump on him tonight? Well, it's going to be getting those right-handed bats going. Keibert Ruiz, I'm looking at you. Not Luis Garcia, but you see the point. Keibert Ruiz, Joey Meneses, Lane Thomas, those guys, we need to see you take a step up tonight. I do think Keibert Ruiz will fare well against a southpaw like Fleming. He's been hitting the cover off the baseball similar to Dominic Smith. Now, let's see it with a little bit of an unimproved guy who really hasn't done too much in the bigs, as last year, it was not a pretty one. He's got a career ERA of 4.93. That's not good by any stretch. So this game is a very winnable one for the Nationals. I'm not anticipating Fleming going out there throwing 6 innings. He'll probably go 2 to 3 innings, get pulled, and that's going to be an opener situation for them. So the Nationals, those first few innings, they're going to have to jump on and get those runs in early. That's something we haven't really been able to see so far, minus Jared Schuster's opening day start or debut start for him for game 3, getting that run support in, helping out Chad Kuhl, making the easy plays. Those are all things that the Nationals will have to do to secure a win and also just make the game a little more entertaining. I've had fun watching the team this year. I always will. Even if they go 0-162, I'm going to have fun watching baseball. But at the end of the day, I do want to see some improvement. And that improvement for today, what I'm going to be watching for is getting started early. That is an important factor for this Nationals team for not only just today, but moving forward. Get the starting pitching some run support and help them out, make their job easier, and also do your job. Do the simple things right. So let's see what this Nationals team can do tonight going against Fleming. Chad Kuhl making his opening day or MLB debut. God, I suck at this. Whatever. Thank you for making Locked On Nationals your first listen. Now for your second listen, check out Locked On Fantasy Baseball. Win your league by listening to Matt and Dom every day as they bring you the best fantasy baseball strategies. And guys, find Locked On Fantasy Baseball wherever you get your pods and on YouTube. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network where you get your team every single day. Guys, thank you again. We'll be tuned in some Nationals baseball tonight and tomorrow for a 1 o'clock start. You won't want to miss it here. I have you covered over on Locked On Nationals.